Hello, everybody. This is Adam Halushka. Welcome to another episode of On Path Podcast, where we have conversations with interesting people to help you find self alignment, optimize your health, and transform your life into one that you actually enjoy living. Today's episode is a special one because we are recapping the episodes from the previous month. So, by featuring a short clip from every episode, you can get a feel for the episode, for the guest, for the topic we were discussing there. And if you like what you hear, you can always dive deeper by visiting the full episode. For the full list of the guests and the episodes, just check out the links in the description. I hope you enjoy it.
The first steps in the guide are having you cleanse out your environment. Because like let's say I make a post about fasting, right? I think fasting is so inefficient. It's barbaric and archaic. It's an antiquated way of trying to get a result through manipulation for your body. But when you understand these higher ways of life, you can just think and have it, right? So whenever people come to me about fasting, they're like, yeah, but it cures cancer, or it can do this, or it helps with this. Well, the lack of starvation wasn't the reason you have a tumor. There was some sort of catalyst in your environment, some sort of molecule, man-made chemical, petrol, something in your environment that caused the reaction of cancer to form. So as long as this thing is in your environment, you might even fast and have, clearance in your body. You may not even show signs of having cancer anymore, but it's still there. As long as these things are in your environment, it will always be draining your energy. Because whatever is in your environment consistently, it's a constant. You can never beat a constant. You can't beat a constant. As long as that thing exists, you can never outlive a constant. You have to get rid of it. You have to get away from it. So my first step for everyone is I always tell them, cleanse your environment. Take out every toxin, take out every chemical, take out every compound, any man-made substance. It seems that everything that man makes kills itself. EMF, non-native EMF, preservatives, chemical compounds, sunscreen, shampoo, conditioner, all these things, when they seep into man, it creates plaque in the heart. It creates autism, Alzheimer's. It creates diabetes, kidney failure, liver. It's like literally very few things of nature hurt man in a chemical way. It's either a poisonous or a toxic plant, but that's about it. Unless the thing's toxic or poisonous, everything in nature supports man. Unless it's like a vicious animal. Nothing in nature causes cancer. I've never heard of one plant causing cancer. So what's the uprise? Cancer is like the majority of health issues in our modern day. So since no plants cause cancer, animals don't cause cancer, why are all of a sudden people getting cancer? It's from everything that man makes. Every time man makes something, it adulterates it. That adulteration is perverted. It's a perverted sense. I'm not even trying to be spiritual. I'm just saying, like, you can't eat the plastic in this mic here. It would cause problems in my body. I can't eat my hat. I can't eat the TV or electric wiring. I can't be around EMF signals, like cell phone tires. Literally everything that man makes is very destructive. So as long as those constants are in your environment, they are drawing from your soul and they are draining you and they're causing you to age. For me, it was hair loss because I was putting those chemicals on my head. It was causing rapid aging on my face. It was causing gynecomastia in my chest. It was causing fluid retention and swelling in my body. I was all those problems were because those things were constants. So my first step is always remove anything as much as you can that's man-made. If you don't have to have it, get rid of it as soon as possible. You just doing that. Usually people lose about 20 pounds just from that one thing. I had a lady, she lost 40 pounds in 2 months, didn't change her diet, didn't work out, didn't eat anything different, didn't fast, didn't count calories, just did that one thing, lost 40 pounds in 2 months just from that one thing. When you do that, you end up gaining so much more energy back that now you're just like, hey, I just have extra. And with that extra energy, then you can start delving into this self-awareness and going inside. You have to remove the constants. It's so important.
And do you think it could have been the combination of things that resulted in this massive weight loss for her, that she removed all of these things from her life, plus she believed that like this thing is going to help me, so it also could be almost like a placebo for her?
It could be, Fat also does buffer out any heavy metals or toxins. So anytime you're taking in harmful toxic chemicals, your body will hold on to a lot of weight to dilute any sort of heavy metals or toxins. So as long as she has these compounds in her environment, she's going to swell. So it's not necessarily that she lost fat. To her, she might have lost fat, but in reality, what may have happened was her body finally got rid of the toxins. So all that retention she was holding on to that was diluting the toxins can now be released because they're no longer in her environment. That was probably the majority factor, besides the belief as well.
Yeah, and she's a client of yours, right?
No, she just heard me talking on TikTok. She didn't even buy my guide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she didn't even buy my guide. She's not one of my students. She just like, hey, I've been following you for 2 months and I did exactly what you said. And I just want to let you know I've lost 40 pounds from just listening to you. And I'm like, good for you, man. Awesome.
So what do people accomplish after they get your guide? So yeah, let's talk a bit about the guide. So you have this guide. What is the guide and what's in it?
Cool. So the guide is right here. It's about 200 pages of do's and don'ts. It's a manual. A lot of people confuse it as a book or some sort of fitness journey or something like that. It's neither or. It's just literally whenever you buy some furniture from IKEA, it comes with an instruction manual on how to put together. That's literally what this is. Just about 800 do's and don'ts. Do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. And whenever you do these specific things the way the guide says, you have all this energy at the end of the day. So the guide is step one. Harness energy. Get as much as you possibly can. And now that you have the energy, just by default, automatically, your body's going to end up healing itself. Having clearer skin, weight loss, bigger muscles. You're going to balance your hormones. My eyes change colors. My eyes used to be like green brown. Now they're like blue gray. My eyes change color. I didn't plan that. So you harness this energy. Your body uses it to heal yourself. Now you're left with all this energy at the end of the day. Now, once you complete that part of the guide, which takes about a year, now you can start directing this energy and creating your life. And with that energy, I got multiple lovers. I have two lovely women who support me. I stay in big, giant like mansions and houses. I travel across the world. I retired at the age of like 29 from it. When you learn how to direct the energy, you end up creating reality from it. But as long as you're under the spell of having your energy sapped and you're under that cloudy and you're lethargic, you can't create reality. You're subject to it. So the guide helps you harness and harvest a bunch of energy so you can come to the point where you can utilize it and direct it. Some of my students, since they've been on the guide and they've gotten to this way of life, they have created new businesses and they've landed over $1 million in deals. Another one he started a real estate business. It's a different person. He's had 4 offers for a house given to him for free. So he's had 4 different people give him a house for free. I've had people manifest new cars, all kinds of stuff. And again, I'm not a fitness guy. I'm not a health guy. I'm not even necessarily a manifesting guy. I'm just saying these are the things that come together when you live this certain way of life, when you actually live in life. I'm the life guy. I just focus on what's the highest form of life. And the abs and the fitness and the health and the beauty and the manifestation and the manifestations has come as a byproduct. Because when you're truly aligned, everything is aligned and working. Everything is operating at its highest function and with ease. You have a bunch of energy, you feel good, you look good, you smell good. You even smell like I don't even smell anymore. Let's say that I use the restroom, right? And this is kind of like out there, but like when I use the restroom, there's no unpleasant smell. When you're truly living, you have no death in you. And that's what's emitted from this life. So that's kind of what it is in the step-by-step process.
I think that's an amazing approach because people don't want to think. They just want to sometimes follow. Do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the approach is great. What's the craziest case study or transformation you have seen someone accomplishing just following this guide? Excluding yourself, of course.
Dude, okay. Cysts going away. To me, cysts are like mini tumors, but like cysts just leaving people's bodies. Hemorrhoids being healed. Brain damage being alleviated. I had a woman, she had migraines, chronic migraines, painful migraines for 20 years of her life. 2 weeks into the guide, hasn't had one since, completely left her. A woman who had constipation for 30 years, she had to take some sort of laxative just to pass stool. I think same thing with about 2 weeks on the guide. She went to the restroom regularly. She passed stool regularly. She said for the first time in her life, she didn't need a laxative just to go to the restroom. Hormones being balanced, periods being regulated, acne going away, hair growth for other people coming back, not just my own, but for other people that had hair growth, gray hairs, people with gray hairs turning back to color. So the person had gray hairs at their tips, like half their hair, but their roots are colored now, like they have black hair again. Wrinkles going away, more energy, higher sex drive. Trying to think of like very specific ones. Teeth growing back. I've had a person that had a chip in their tooth and they had cracks in their teeth. Their teeth filled back in. Diabetes.
How?
That's what I'm saying. We don't focus on any of that stuff. This is the crazy thing. I never focus on growing your hair back. I never focus on healing your teeth. I never focus on assist. I say, this is what life is. Do it and you will come alive. And in life, there's no sign of death. All those things are death. Diabetes is death. PCOS is death. Migraines are your body dying and decaying. When you stop choosing death and you start choosing life, there's no death in life. So you don't have that stuff. So we don't have a remedy to try to grow, get gray hairs to turn black. We don't have a remedy to get rid of cysts. There's no remedy. It's the ailment is just the confirmation or the receipt that you've been choosing death. Every time you choose death, here's another sickness. Every time you choose death, oh, here's another ailment. The ailment, the sickness, the inflammation, the pimples, the acne, the psoriasis, the eczema, herpes. Cure the woman of herpes, all that stuff. Is this a sign? Is this your receipt that you've been choosing death every time you okay, I'll choose death. Okay, here's your receipt, herpes. Okay, I've been choosing death. Okay, here's psoriasis and balding and all this other stuff. When you start choosing life, it overcomes all the bad decisions and it nullifies it, and then you start to live again. I've had people who are close to being 60. I have a man who's 58 years old. He lost 30 pounds and he looks like he's 30. All of his bad decisions almost wiped away, and this is within 5 months. Just miraculous. It's almost like, man, I'm so excited to talk about this, but like it's almost like life has been calling you for the past however long you've been alive, and it's waiting for you, but you just keep choosing death out of fear and insecurity. Oh, that won't work. Oh, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. So you keep choosing death. But the moment you choose life, the moment you just choose life, it's right there. This stuff happens nearly instantaneously. I'm talking about within less than a month, sometimes within the first 2 weeks. That's how fast this recovery is. It's insane, man. But it's not just for looking sexy or looking good or being healthy. It's so you can start harnessing energy. Like all this health in this life, it's for a purpose. It's not just to, oh, I want my summer body. Oh, I want some abs. It's not just so, oh, I don't want cancer. It's so like once you heal yourself, you now have a job and an assignment. You have to direct this energy, because energy that's not directed becomes stagnant, and that still ends up hurting you. Stagnant energy is still bad energy. You have to learn how to direct it and manifest, start creating a life. So it's all connected.
Because energy cannot be extinguished. It can only be transferred, right?
Exactly.
So if you retain that, it's going to flow somewhere.
100%. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I have a laundry list of just everything, man. PCOS, bacterial vaginosis, herpes, all like you name it, man.
Yeah.
Like pretty much we've healed nearly everything except for specifically cancer. But if there's any other variant out there, like we've pretty much healed it.
And also in the guide, there is something called the equation for life. Can you tell a little bit about that?
I'd love to. Thank you for asking. So all of this works because of the way that you view life. We were talking about this earlier. If you've already lost in your head, you won't even play the game. So how you perceive something is everything. It lays the format of what you're about to experience. So the equation of life, or my philosophy of life, is hinged on what life is actually made of, and on its rudimental formation. Life itself is energy, consciousness, and regeneration. Everything that's alive has those things. It has energy to use so it can move and do stuff. It has consciousness so it's sentient. It can go towards light or go towards food or whatever. and it has the ability to regenerate cellular reproduction. So with those three things there, that's all life is. You can have money or not and still have life. You can have a family or not and still have life. You can be tall or short or black or white or a woman. It doesn't matter, because as long as you have energy, consciousness, and regeneration, you'll always live. So those are the primary things that you need to focus on. If you can focus on that, all of your life will align a lot easier. So I try to get people focused on like, and hold this. This is the standard. Okay, hey, does this give me more energy? Hey, does this help my regeneration? Does this help my consciousness? If any of those are a no, don't accept it. You have to check all the boxes. Yes, this helps my energy. Yes, this helps my consciousness. Yes, this helps my regeneration. And that's going to start giving you the guideline on like what to accept in your life. It makes things a lot easier, like nullifying and getting them out.
This is like so beautifully put. And I'm going to get the guide, because I didn't get the guide yet, but I already learned so much from you just from those videos. And also, as you were saying about migraine, my mom has been struggling with migraine in her entire life since I know her. And she has tried literally everything. So I'm getting that thing 100%.
Oh, dude, yeah. I'll shoot you a code too, so that way you can get like a discount and stuff like that. So,
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I prepared a couple of just some fire questions, like things that are kind of like short, right? Just to pick your brain a little bit as well.
Okay, cool.
So I would like to hit you with a couple of those.
Okay, cool.
So what do you think about stress?
Stress is the factor that we're dying. It's the evidence. You should never be stressed, ever.
Oh, I really would like to dive deeper into that.
You let me know. I know these are rapid fire. You let me know. You tell me.
Okay.
Do you want to go into stress? We can talk about it real quick.
Yeah. So let's talk about stress, because the majority of the audience that I have, they are entrepreneurs, leaders who are very ambitious. They want to accomplish something in life, and they have a sense of detachment from themselves. Their health is kind of like taking a backseat. Sometimes their relationships are struggling, and they are like stressed, right? Very typical case of burnout, and it's usually coming from high responsibility, very low or lack of agency. And this is just something that kind of like follows you through your entire life as long as you are building stuff, because you just want to like self-realize, you want to make yourself seen, or you want to feel worthy. So stress, to me, it almost seems like that's something that's just a part of it, right? So how do you think like ambitious entrepreneurs and leaders should think about stress? Like, what should they do about it? How should they eliminate it? Is this okay to have it? Does this actually give you drive, or you should just like get rid of it completely?
Well, you can always leverage stress to push you into the flow state. So if you are a master at utilizing energy, what is considered stressful to most may not be considered stressful to another person. But if that stress is overwhelming stress, it eliminates the ability to think clearly, and it convolutes the person's mind to where they become more ineffective than effective. So if you really want to be successful, then that's the major thing that's actually holding you back, because stress is comparative to traffic. The more traffic that's on the highway, the slower you're going to go and the longer it's going to take to get there. But whenever you can operate in a space with no stress at all, you have an open road and you can be as creative as you want. So that's why even at Google and places like this, like Apple, they have like meditation rooms to where people can decompress and get the stress off, because it's that important to not be stressed. Stress in and of itself, it will work against you. It will break your body down. It will convolute your mind. It will release cortisol. You can get sick just from being stressed. There was no virus or bacteria in the air. You're sick and your body's breaking down literally from you holding the thought in your head or whatever you're stressed about. There's two ways I want to go down this. One is physical. Physically, I suggest, this is coming from the guy with big muscles, all the other stuff, right? Clear face, everything else. I suggest that you should never stress yourself out more than 50% of your ability, ever. You should never. So if you have 100% here, never go past 50, ever. And that should be like your stress mitigation right there. Like you never go beyond 50. If you're at 45%, leave, take a 5-minute breather, breathe, because if you start tipping over 50%, you're gonna start making bad decisions and bad choices, which if you really care about your company, you're gonna fuck your company up. So like to avoid that, to avoid those bad decisions, you need to make sure that you alleviate first. The second thing about stress is it's not real in the first place. Like unless and this is the biggest benefit because I have teams of people. I travel the world. I I manage multiple relationships with multiple women. If there's anything structural, that could be it too. Just holding relationships together.
It's a different kind of stress. Yeah.
It's a good stress because we all sleep in the same bed at night, so it ends up being good always. But jokes aside, the stress in itself isn't real. It's just my perception of it. So the moment that I get out of stress, I clear my mind. I understand what things actually mean cognitively in my perception. Then I understand that the stress is an illusion. Then it has no power. It has no foothold in me. I can navigate through any situation, no matter how high stress the situation is, and always come out effective. So whenever you understand there's nothing at risk. The risk isn't real. It's all imaginary. Then all of a sudden you have free reign to do whatever. This is another way I was able to retire so early. I would work with high profile clients. They were millionaires, hectomillionaires. I even got to hang out with some billionaires and stuff like that. And whenever I understood that what they're stressing about isn't actually real, and that's why they're being held back, I was able to help these people out of their own stress. And I found that at an early age. So the stress itself mentally is your perception of it. So the thing that you should, and which this kind of goes back to my message from the very beginning, what you should do is get as much energy as you can so you can divert that or allocate it to your cognitive functions on defining what reality is. And then you'll always have the greatest effect. What to say? You always have the greatest effect in it. So stress mentally is your perception and the way that you're looking at it, which means you're looking at it from a flawed state. Whenever you see that the stress is just energy that hasn't been transferred, then you can transfer that energy and you can always come out and be profitable in every you can win it. You can win in every situation, unless it's some sort of like roll of the dice or some sort of game or something like that to where you're trying to get that specific thing. You can win in every situation. You never have to lose. I don't believe in losing. I don't believe losing is real because of what I'm sharing with you here. So therefore, I'm never stressed.
What is that?
Probably.
What is extraordinary living?
That was a mantra I used to live by back then. It was everything is like amazing. You can have it. It was you can have it all. You can have the health. You can have the friendships. You can have the business. You can have the relationship, the job. But it was a belief system because I didn't have the money. I didn't have the boyfriend. Like I didn't have all these things. But still, I believed in that utopian world in my mind of extraordinary living. And you just push through.
And then as you were like pushing through, what were the biggest mental barriers or obstacles that you had to overcome in this journey?
Oh, many.
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 Okay, let's dive into a couple of those. I think this is what excites most people because everybody sees the tip of the iceberg and they see where they are. But the question is, what's behind? What is it that it actually took to get there? What are the challenges? What are the obstacles? And how someone actually managed to overcome that? And I feel that we don't talk about enough this.
So people usually tell me, hey, Monica, you're so positive. Yes, I am. And I always see the positive things.
I can confirm that.
Yes. At work and outside of work, even when we're going through crap. But I guess the reality, well, many people say that some of the people who are so positive is that because in the past, they had to go through a lot of crap. And that basically shaped their lens of life. So from my perspective, I guess like growing up, like I was not the popular girl. On the contrary, I was a nerd and I was called names, let's say. So as a result of that, I had very low confidence. And my low confidence in this side, it was overcompensated with being really good at school, right? So I always had to be the best. That was one. Like growing up. But then in my early 20s, well, when I was 20, my mom passed away almost unexpectedly. So that shift, like that changed my whole life. So at 20, I had like something horrible happened, but at the same time, I had the blessing to see to see, to taste death, like at a very, very, very young age. And then
And do you
once you
think that
have
was a
that,
good thing or a bad thing?
a
Because
good
as you are
thing.
speaking of it now, it almost sounds like that you consider it as a blessing,
Yes, it was a, well, that's
which
why
is
I pushed
strange
through.
to hear.
Yeah, I pushed through, right? Because it was absolutely horrible. But because of that, like, I became who I am. I had a lot of pain. And then all the things that I had to overcome weren't not even because of work or living abroad. It was because of the internal pain that I had. I first had to overcome those two things, to then go and thrive like I'm thriving now. I've overcome all that now, and I'm like super thriving in different areas of life, and I'm very happy and peaceful with myself. But the things that I had to overcome were not only work structures and stuff, mainly were those two events in my personal life.
So
But if I
those,
look now, they were blessings in disguise,
yeah, so
difficult to overcome.
yeah, but as you said, these kind of major life events fundamentally shape the person who you are and who you become. I can see where that relentless drive came from for you. And how did it look like just in career? So you already had like a set of personality and character traits that you were bringing with yourself. What were some of the other obstacles and challenges, or even like mental blocks that you had to come through as you were leveling up at work?
The biggest one, like one of the biggest questions I get all the time, it's, well, I work in fintech. First, let me step back. I work in fintech. That's financial services and technology. These two industries are male dominated. That's it. Very male dominated. So now you put them together and it continues to be very male dominated. And it's not just about having many men in the room, it's because it's also the energy and the dynamics of how those things work. So the most common question I get is, what are the challenges of being a woman in a male dominated environment? And genuinely, I say, actually, I am not sure, I don't know, because my biggest belief since I started my career in the UK was not being a woman. I never realized I was a woman until once in a while. That sounds weird. I never realized I was a woman in a male-dominated environment until I was like in Canary Wharf in the lifts, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm surrounded by white men. Like I'm the only girl. But that's it. But the thing that always was in my mind was, I'm a Mexican girl with an accent that people don't understand. And I'm competing against everyone else in the room, who they are just like ahead of me just by being born British and having a nicer accent. That was my biggest limiting belief.
That was
And
your
that's,
personal limiting belief.
yes. So everything that I struggled with at work, I believe was rooted on that.
Okay, so
So
you
I was
felt
always
that
the
you were
best.
already at a disadvantage. And
Yes.
then how did you deal with that? Because that can really like fuck with your confidence and
A
how
lot.
you approach things. And then you're just gonna push yourself to the absolute limits. So yeah, let's stay on that one. I think that's interesting because I also feel that when people are making their step towards the dreams and the goals that they have, so many have this victim mentality that like, oh, it's beyond me, like I'm at a disadvantage. And yes, in certain cases you are, but this is what life dealt you. So how do you approach your limiting belief in this situation?
I think I am also very fear based. So I always look at the alternative. I'm like,
Elaborate.
and you're right, right? You just said like it pushes you to the limits in an unhealthy manner. You used another word, but it is true. It is true. Like, but from my perspective, I left Mexico. It's a beautiful country. It's a nice country. People love digital nomading there, but the country has many issues, and I don't want to go back to live. I want to go for holiday, just like everyone else does. So for me, the alternative of not staying in the UK was going back home. So I cannot go back home. Therefore, I must continue no matter what. And I did whatever it takes. I'm of a whatever it takes mentality type of person by now. Or back then, I think like back then I was more like that.
I would like to dive a little bit more into the mindset here. It just reminded me to one experiment that they did with rats. So I may have already told you this story before, that they put a couple of rats in a maze, and they put the like smell of the cheese somewhere hidden in the maze, and then they put like a measuring device to check like how strong the mouse pulls towards the cheese, towards their goal, right? I can't remember the exact number. And then they did another experiment that they put the scent of a cat, something to run away from. And what they found is that like running away from something, the subject deploys even way more energy to run away from something than towards something. And when you have both, that you're running towards something and you're running away from something, like that's the ultimate situation where you can deploy all of your force and energy in order to go towards the things that you want
That's
in your
me.
life. So that's you, right?
Yeah.
And so what approach did you take? At the end of the day, you still play mind games with your own mind. So like what were the things that you did in order to address that or just have a bit of an edge in this situation?
The first one was, well, I left Mexico and I moved to the UK to study my master's.
Yeah.
When I finished my master's, I went through what I call the quarter of a life crisis. And this was in the middle of the 2008 2009 crisis. I was lucky to have a good job. That's how I managed to stay. But I was semi depressed, right? Because it's like I had no friends because all my friends didn't get a job, so they went back home. So it's like I had no friends, I had no boyfriend. It was rainy, dark, but most importantly, all my friends at home at 26, 27 years old, men and women, all of them were married, and I was not. So that was like the cherry on that cake that made me go into the quarter of a life crisis. And this is important because of that down, it was not fun. Because of that, exactly, you have to find a way to survive. And then one of the ways that I found to survive, I discovered coaching, I discovered laughter yoga. So I did two very specific things. I became a laughter yoga instructor for about a year or two. So that was my passion project number one. And that was amazing. That's the thing that, like that it brings you energy. And then the other one, like, given that my biggest pain point was not being in a relationship, there is a very now famous dating coach called Matthew Hussey. I met him. I met Matt 10 years ago in the UK when he was just getting started. A friend told me, like, this is real story. One of my friends, German guy, we were talking about boys probably. And he was like, Monica, you have to check out this page. And he sent me a pickup artist page. And I was like, dude, what is this? Like, what are you? He was like, just be open-minded, check it out. They talk about everything and anything. Confidence, money, this, not just girls. And I'm like, okay. So I managed to listen to this podcast from this random guy, Matthew Hussey. And at the end, he says, oh, yeah, that's all on confidence, but now I coach women on how to basically find love, right? And it's like, and I have a company called Meet the Guy. So basically, I went to his seminar, like very randomly on a Saturday. I went like for 2-3 hours. I was like, this is the craziest thing ever. And I was hooked. Like, I liked him. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to learn how to date, I'm going to learn from a guy my age or a little bit younger rather than from a 50-year-old guy. And I liked his mindset and everything. So I went through his program the weekend, well, the short 2-hour seminar. Then I went back to the weekend. And then I went back to his retreat in Miami. And then I became part of the team. So for 3 years in a row, I was just like immersed in the world of coaching and personal development. So while I had the laughter yoga, I used to coach with him. I was part of the team on weekends. And then because of that, once you get immersed in that environment, you start studying everyone else, like Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins. So I did a 5 years immersive program meeting all of these guys teaching personal development, and I reprogrammed my mind.
How did you do that? So, okay, like first, like the laughter yoga sounds ridiculous to me.
It
So, like,
is.
what is like you do yoga and you laugh, or how should I imagine it?
No, you don't do yoga. It's called laughter yoga, but it is based on the principles of pranayama breathing. So
Okay,
it's
I know.
breathing, one, but then two, the brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined, especially when it comes to laughter. So basically, you start faking laughter. So it's a 1 hour session where you go through a series of exercises that you start ha 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 hey 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 he 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 he. Like you start simulating laughter, and it's like a full warm-up workout as such as well. Not workout, yoga workout, but it's like you end up exhausted at the end. But it's 1 hour of putting happy hormones in your body just by laughing. You start with ha 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 fake, and then you finish with what I called a fountain of laughter. Everybody lying on the floor, just like laughing out loud. It sounds quite hippie, but it is.
I love
But
it.
it's amazing. Yeah, I'm like, it's amazing. And
Yeah,
that's it.
I'm sure you have seen those videos when this guy just gets on the subway and he
On the
starts
train.
laughing at something,
Yes.
and then everybody else starts laughing. Very,
Yeah.
very interesting how that works.
So yeah.
So that's the laughter yoga. But then on the coaching, so like you were still like climbing the ladder as a product manager, product leader, as you were doing all of this stuff on the side, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said that you reprogrammed your mind.
Yes.
What does that exactly mean? What were the different kind of practices, or what were the different kind of areas that you have explored during these 5 years that makes you believe that you have programmed your own mind?
So I did a lot of work. I may have forgotten the technical names of the modalities, but I did do a lot of work. I did a lot of work with Matt, starting with the best way to attract a partner is to become the best version of yourself. That's it. And to be very clear on what are your values and what are, what's the vision of your life, what are your standards. So I started with that, like very conscious work. As a result of that, but I think most of us, I had pain inside. So pain will hold you back. It's like you have like this hole like in your heart properly. So you have to heal. And healing is difficult. So because you have to face the pain and you have to face the fears and the insecurities and the past to then go and create that amazing person for the future, right? So not only I started with a path of this resistance that it was let's create this thing, right? Then once I had clarity on that, I started going very deep on all the work that Tony Robbins does. And I went to all his live seminars, the 2 days ones, the 5 days ones, like all of those. And I think Tony Robbins does a lot of subconscious programming. And he has one exercise that anyone who has been to his events knows it's very, very powerful. That he has the full room, 5,000 people crying, screaming. Like, it sounds weird, right? It's a cult. Yes, it is like a cult. But it takes you to a place where you continue in this path and you do not change and you see the worst pain and possibility if you continue this way. And it imprints an image that it's very harsh in your mind. And then subsequently, he takes you to the world of, and now I need to change, and now it's in me, and he imprints that in you. And this process has a name, I just don't remember it. So I did that with him. in one of his events. That's very powerful. And that image, just like, it comes back to you. It's so painful that you're like, I don't want that. Exactly. We've run away from pain, right? It's like, I don't want that. And then you just find the energy of, I'm in control. I did use, some people don't believe in incantations. I used them many, many times in the past, because when you're in a deep place of insecurity and pain, like, you try everything basically. And then yeah, I would read them out loud. I could go for a walk and like chant them out loud. Yeah, people can hear you. It doesn't matter. Everyone's crazy. And I started with that. And then I was like, oh, but these incantations things are not working. Like, because they are not. And then you're like, oh, that is just like a very deep level. And then you need to go deeper, right? And I think that's when many people, including myself, that's when you start discovering spirituality. And you're like, hey, you have a little bit of faith. And then you discover a little bit of trying a little bit of hypnosis. And then you also try a little bit of actual therapy. All these years, I did all this coaching and all these things, and I avoided therapy. But at some point, you have to face it. So you go back, you go to the therapist, it's a good one. And you go through your crap and you overcome it little by little. It has to do a professional way. What I learned is it will take however long it needs to take at your own pace, and you will open the Pandora box at your own pace. And eventually you'll be like, there's nothing else in there to heal.
Whenever we go through a different change in our lives, there is a loss, there is a grief. So allow yourself to go through the emotions. I think people also often are like, this is a change, I should already just be fine with the situation and suck it up and move on. And what I'm finding is that people are not really acknowledging their emotions. And if we're not acknowledging our emotions, then it becomes pent up and stuck energy, and we're not then able to make clear decisions.
So true.
Because our emotions are just piled up on top of each other. So I invite people to accept everything, accept where they're at, as well as even accept the emotions that are coming with that. And I'd want to also emphasize how we can't grow in life, we can't expand without a certain level of loss. Like, that does not happen. And I see each loss or each maybe disappointment of thinking how life was going to turn out and is turning out a different way as really an unveiling of what are parts of you that you were perhaps avoiding, that it's presenting itself. And these parts of yourself, you can have a new relationship with it. Are they parts that you are going to then let control your life because they could have been operating in a subconscious level? Or are you going to move forward in a new way with making new choices and showing up? And all the time, I emphasize as well as the power of choice, the power that people have, the ability to make a new choice. And from that, the past does not control them, but it can inform them. And so in being present with what is and having a firm grasp of who they are and how they want to show up in the world, then that's the space that they get to make those choices and create the life that they desire.
I think there's so much to unpack there. So, for example, the thing that you mentioned about emotions, that some people tend to bottle up emotions and they don't properly process them and release them, and then it gets stuck somewhere. And my friend has this concept, it's called emotional bandwidth. So you have a certain amount of bandwidth that you can deal with stuff in your life. So everything is kind of like fighting for your attention. Things are happening to you, that someone just got in front of you in traffic, or the computer broke down and I have this many projects to deal with, and I have this person who I have to deal with. Like, all of these kind of impulses kind of like occupy a certain level amount of real estate in your emotional bandwidth. And if you just keep emotions unprocessed in that system, you have so little room to play with. And this is where people just lose their shit. They
Exactly.
explode, they just spill out and vomit all of this stuff on others, right? So that's also a very important thing to properly deal with. And this is what you also help them with. How do you do that exactly? So what's the method that you use?
Yeah, I use variations of methods. So one is cognitive behavioral therapy. So just recognizing what's coming up in their life. And so it's talk therapy and also getting an understanding of the situation, reframing situations. Another modality I use is also somatic release therapy. So it's allowing the body to tell the story. So it doesn't involve any kind of mental talking, more so of just getting the body to release, to shake, to be in a space where it can just release, in a space where it feels safe. The other modality that I use for emotional processing is cellular resonance quantum healing. And this technique also supports in allowing people to process their emotions.
So this is the one that we also did together, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you maybe just explain what it is exactly and what's the science behind it?
Cellular resonance quantum healing identifies the root causes for symptoms. The symptoms can be emotional, where you're going through depression or anxiety. They can also be physical symptoms where you may have a backache or you have chronic symptoms like diabetes or serious health issues. And we identify the root causes of those issues. We release the subconscious programming and we repolarize, meaning that we bring the body back into a neutral state. And so I'd want to bring this back to its scientific basis and understanding of the body. And what quantum is that everything, matter, protons, it is in a state of vibration. So everything has an energy and frequency. And also with that, the observation of that matter can shift. So meaning our thoughts and our realities can have actual physical reality implications. It shifts our reality. So when we are going through something in our life, it can be tracked that we have experienced something in the past, as well as also possibly something that our parents have experienced in the past. And what that looks like is our body can be, when there's a stressor in our lives, it comes up in a fight or flight response. So in that fight or flight response, then we hold on to that frequency and the energy. It's like that energy then is trapped. So that frequency is trapped where then we are going to continue to play those beliefs in our systems so that our reality gives us the evidence to confirm our beliefs. So if we were abused when we were younger and our family told us we didn't matter, we are carrying that energetic imprint and that vibration within our body, within our energetic field. So then in our lives, as we grow up, we are going to see evidence to prove that core belief, that core wound. So until we do different things, cellular resonance quantum healing is one, or people go through a number of different healing modalities out there to do that work. Until we reprogram those subconscious beliefs, then we will be replaying those stories in our lives. We're literally shifting our reality in our interactions to fit our beliefs and our wounds. And with cellular resonance, quantum healing, we approach the body as this, I would say like this technology of information. And with the quantum field, it accesses the information that is in the field. That is like your body's information of what it's holding.
What is the quantum field?
So quantum field is really the fact that everything is connected, that we are all part of everything in this reality in existence is all part of this field. And the technique that I use access this information so that it tells me what the interferences are, or what energy is presenting itself in your body right now. So if you say, I'm fine, I feel great, I can ask the body, what is in the field, or what is an energetic imprint that's associated with that comment of, I feel great, I feel fine. And let's say if you were abused when you were a child, there could be another frequency in there, like this feeling of unworthiness or abuse that's actually there. That frequency that we don't realize is playing in the subconscious, in the energetic field, is what is causing the beliefs in your system. So when we recognize that, first you get to recognize that belief, and then we clear that belief, and then we bring the body back into neutrality.
So if I get this correctly, the quantum field is the field of infinite possibilities. So let's say that if you look at it as a computer, so the quantum field would be the program that's running in the background that contains every single possibility that we can tap into. And throughout our upbringing and history, we take certain parts of that information, we store it in our self, in our subconscious, in form of beliefs. And those are beliefs that you identify throughout the sessions, that this is a belief that, let's say, I'm holding on to that's not serving me.
Exactly.
And this is how you have your own technique, how you identify those beliefs, and then you also have a process that helps people to release those beliefs.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So I love that you compared it to the computer. And this technique started from my teacher, Dr. Doug Lair. So under his training, this is then what I've been practicing with people and my clients. And I love how you explained it, that we are this supercomputer, and we're able to then delete what doesn't serve us, because in that infinite possibility, then we're programming ourselves into a belief that is most true to our highest essence. And from my belief, which is it's love, it is trusting in self and self-acceptance.
So you mentioned emotions, you mentioned beliefs, you mentioned reality. How do you think that our thoughts and emotions influence the reality that we experience?
It plays a role in everything that we've experienced. So what has happened in the past and how we interpret what happens in the past also then connects to then how the type of experiences that we are living in our lives. So I shared with you my mom's appendix bursting, a physical symptom of something that she was grieving, dealing with grief and emotions that she was holding onto and she wasn't able to process. So then it showed up as a physical ailment. So if you are not addressing or allowing yourself to connect with your emotions, it's going to show up. You really cannot run away from it. You cannot avoid it. The more we try to avoid it, then it'll come out, as you were saying, in an outburst, coming out in unhealthy ways or coming out in illnesses.
So this is how unprocessed emotions can manifest in physical form.
Yes.
But how is that even possible? Because when you look at, we live in the material world, like how is it possible that my thought that like I hold in my mind
Yeah.
can become physical? So I cannot just think of like, I think of money and suddenly there is going to be money. So how to explain this? So what exactly happens with our thought that's going to make it real in a physical form?
There is the law of attraction. You're familiar with the law of
Yeah.
attraction? So energy, with the law of attraction and also observation, our attention and our energy impacts our physical space.
Yeah,
Okay,
so this is
yeah.
the observer effect, right?
Yes.
Which explains that the moment you observe a phenomenon,
It alters.
it changes.
Exactly.
So what it also tells us that us being the observers of our own lives, we have the ability to alter our reality.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the way we observe things are impacted by the things that we hold in our mind in form of thoughts and emotions. So that's how those thoughts and emotions become real.
Reality.
Okay.
Exactly. So our observations doesn't come necessarily from this clean, neutral space, and that's the space that we'd aspire to, right? To be in this space of abundance and prosperity. But there's different things that have happened in the past that have affected our observations or affected our way of looking into things, where though we may think I've said so many affirmations about abundance and prosperity and it's still not working, it's because it's not necessarily getting to the subconscious and the energetics realms of it. So it also goes beyond the thoughts. It's reaching the energetics that with cellular resonance you have access to.
So what it means is that even though I consciously say that I believe I can turn 120 years old, if subconsciously I don't believe it, that still gives like a false confirmation to this belief, so it's not going to be real.
Exactly.
This is why we need to work with what's in the background.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's what you are helping with.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are some of the most common subconscious blocks that you see people experience in their career, in their health or relationships?
A lot has been around birth, actually, our birth story. Yes. So what comes up is either the situation that our mothers were experiencing. So while we were in their womb, they may have been going through anxiety or depression. And so these things we would not even have known that exists. But when you're in your mother's womb, you're like 90% water as a fetus. You're absorbing everything that she's experiencing. So we don't know that we get to address those things that she was experiencing. So if we don't know that those things are needed to be addressed, then we're kind of going through life unaware, right? Another aspect that I found a lot for people's blocks is the ability to forgive. So people they're holding on to this story that they have been betrayed. So in this part of them being betrayed, they're either getting a sense of being a victim or not being able to trust that person. And in them not being able to trust that person or forgive that person, you can also see patterns of that kind of same role or scenario play out in their life again. It happens again, where then they're getting betrayed. So then they have this lens of that they can't trust people. So when you're able to forgive and accept and process that emotion, one of the protocols in this practice is the practice of recognizing the dark role that this person played.
The dark role.
Yeah, there is a dark role that people have played in our lives that actually is for us. It serves us because in that space of something that if they've done some kind of harm to you, then you actually can turn that pain into your passion. That you might have heard that before, like instead of taking something that's like a hardship that actually becomes kind of like your superpower.
It's almost like becomes a blessing.
Exactly. So when you recognize this role that person played in your life and accepting like that's their dark role, and also you forgive them for the harm that they have done, then you're letting go of the energy and the friction and the blame that you have towards that person. So when you have this energy of blame towards that person, that means that energy that could be towards your passion and your purpose is getting split. So it's focused on that pain, on like, you did me wrong, and I'm going to be over here. But you're not really fully taking your full energy and focus into all that you can do. I see it. You talked about the bandwidth of the emotions, and it's similar. You can be in this tug of war with yourself if you are kind of in a hidden battle with that thing that has happened in the past, right? We can say, oh, we've moved on. But until we really forgive and recognize that that person's role in your life could have, like you said, been a blessing, then we have this leaking energy that's focused on that. And so what you'd want to do is be in this process of forgiveness so that you are reclaiming that energy back to yourself. And then in that space, you are then able to focus on whatever it is that you're creating in your life.